first of all, a big welcome. We weren't too sure of an audience tonight. It's the first time we've been to St Thomas's, we've been to your grave and the Little Fig Tree, John's Theatre, and indeed to other places around, but not here. But what an audience we've got. So, wow, thank you very much for coming.
John said, I'm going to start by taking you a short distance down Chatsworth Road to a building that's no longer there. But if you've been in Chesterfield for some time, you'll remember it. It's called Bradbury Hall. It was her home in service to the Robinsons, along with cook, maid and gardener, before she became my grandma. She'd been embarrassed by the arrival of her father, a disruptive father, spoiling her chances, seeking cash. We don't want you here again, Elizabeth. Years later, answering the nation's call, it served as a British restaurant, where I waited in line for austerity lunch, eavesdropping on our local band leader and his friend, enthusing over big band broadcasts and sizing up the latest swing. I recall its once familiar face as a concert hall and ballroom. Remember an evening of glittering brass, Kenny Baker, the guest trumpeter, hitting the high notes with shimmering grace, enough to bring the house down, which the demolition men did. Now, bulldozer, digger and crane have played their cacophonous tune. 5 floors of apartments, the place for modern contemporary living, have risen from the dust. Glass-fronted balconies, square-eyed windows look down on white-lined parking spaces. Rounded sculptures flank the entrance. But the great horse chestnut, witness to that other age,
It was the end
still
of a very dry summer, and they were battling to contain moorland fires. So many roads were closed to non-essential traffic. So landscape out of bounds. The moors were on fire that year. Boundless landscapes out of bounds. The stench of wind-blown ashes in place of wild honey scent. We turned to deck-chaired comfort and the salt of cooling breezes. I missed the mystery of Hokum Hole, Levisham's bracken-frond green, edging a bowl of close-cropped turf. We drank tea in gift-shop towns, far from Rosedale Abbey. I missed harebells garlanding the way past Celtic crosses to Rosebery Topping's distant cone. We bargained in Helmsley Market, jostling among heated crowds. I missed the sound of ewes calling to careless lambs by Lealholme stream, and the drone of bees in Westerdale. We climbed Castle Mounds, Pickering, Scarborough like an upturned Viking keel. But most of all, I missed that royal robe of heather blazoning the hills below a silent sky. And a bit further north, another of my favourite places is the Northumberland coast with its many castles. Dunstanburgh Castle belonged to John of Gaunt, the Duke of Lancaster, a son of Edward III. And after 2 political marriages, he married his long-time mistress, Catherine Swynford, and legitimised their children, so founding the House of Lancaster. So, Dunstanburgh Castle. Stark memorial to an age long past, a mighty fortress built with walls so strong, those jagged towers even now outlast the bugler's warning and the minstrel's song, where down below the angry sea surged on the rocks. Seen through a sea fret or the mist of time, across the bay, its eerie splendour, blurred, evokes the story of a love sublime. Those parents of a royal line once heard the sea below break loud and fierce upon the rocks. Today, we stroll beneath the summer skies, where thyme and sea pink deck the sheep-cropped turf. The beauty of the scene beguiles our eyes, and romance lingers still above the surf, as far below the sea laps gently on the rocks. But through the gatehouse on the headland's brow, a grassy space is all there is to see. These curtained walls conceal no secrets now, dead water in the tide of history, unlike the constant ebb and flow of sea upon the rocks.
Going back again to Yorkshire and to Henry Moore, and I once saw a documentary about what inspired him to become a sculptor, and I tell the story here. Henry Moore, sculpture. As a boy, massaging your mother's hurt back with embrocation, you felt the contours of spine, jut of pelvis, scapula, twist of neck misaligned. Feeling her pain, your hands learned. Feeling for form, your hands remembered. Remembered the blade of bone shouldering braced against the cutting edge of pain. You remembered her head, angled from the hurt. You remembered the reek of ointment in closed kitchen air. Now, from a hollowed head, a great maternal form surveys the moor, shouldering the cutting edge of wind.
Nice, attractive lady on my right here, Sue Sporting on piano. Alto player extraordinaire, Mr. Jeff Edishaw. And finally, but by no means least, on drums and vocal, Mr. Ian Woodhouse. Thank you very much. Now, as John has announced, the theme of the evening is travel, different places.
Like a giant ostrich. Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. See there, a poplar tree that stands alone, sentinel to an age 6 generations gone, on pasture cleared from native bush. A land of promise to rear cattle and strong children. 2 months sailing to reach here, Aotearoa, land of the long white cloud. After the lashings of the southern ocean, see the earth's soft underbelly, vulnerable like its flightless birds to predators with teeth and claws and spades. To a land evolving without mammals, settlers bring dogs and cats and rats. Hunted to extinction the majestic moa, whose bones lie jigsawed on museum shelves. No more their feathers can cloak Maori chiefs. Landslips wrinkle the hill slopes, erode the gift of soil once held close by ferns, which guided rain with delicacy down the tracery of their lacy fronds. Homesick, the settler's wife appeals. On the next ship, bring seeds, bring saplings, bring acorns, catkins, hollyhocks and roses to remind me of what I left behind.
To introduce you to Philippa, who has reached the stage in her life's journey when the past seems much brighter than the present. Whether or not this is a ghost story, I'll leave you to decide. Invoking Marcus. Peeling the apple is real enough. The serrated knife, royal gala skin spiralling onto the draining board, smears of juice on the blade, but after that, I can't be sure of anything. Steering me into the hall, away from the dark red pool congealing on the kitchen floor, the police sergeant says, "So, you and your husband had been sitting in the conservatory?" I shake my head. Bob never sets foot in the conservatory, didn't want it built. The pair of us rattle around in this great barn of a place anyway, is his view. Early retirement means keeping an eye on the pennies. Why waste hard-earned brass on a glass box? But there are 2 mugs in there, the sergeant says. One on the floor, next to a plate with 3 pieces of apple on it. The other, he frowns at his notebook, trying to decipher the writing. The other full of cold coffee on the low table next to an empty cafetiere. The conservatory is my bolt hole, my refuge, the place where I can sink into one armchair and picture Marcus in the other. I last saw him in the flesh when we graduated 30 years ago. But summoning up the lean figure is no problem. I always start with his feet. Honey-coloured suede chucker boots, crossed legs in well-pressed chinos, arms flung out against the William Morris cushions. His face I leave till last, lingering first on the dark hair, grey at the temples by now, but still flopping over his forehead. That's the point to start revelling in memories of dark corners in student flats. Until I reached his face, this morning's ritual was no different. But this time, I'd no sooner dreamt up his lips when they moved. "You should have married me, Philippa," he said. I don't remember you asking me, I heard myself retort. He smiled. One of those lazy grins that crept slowly over his face, as if everyone else's 60 seconds to the minute didn't apply to him. You could have manoeuvred me, he said. Girls always know how to get what they want. Swivelling round in his chair, he gazed out at the garden. Manicured lawn and coloured coordinated borders satisfy you, do they? How is old Bob these days? Same as ever, I said. It's true. The security of Bob's bank balance was what I opted for, and security is what I've got. Top security. I'm imprisoned in the cage of Bob's habits. Breakfast, cornflake chomping, lunch, arguing with the world at 1, dinner, analysing his golf swing. He stole my girl, Martha said. He has to pay for doing that. He nodded at the coffee pot. I'll fetch myself a mug. Kitchen through here, is it? Now it's too late. I realise he didn't so much get up as dematerialise. Was it the smell of the coffee being poured that came next? Or the chink of the cafetiere on the side of the second mug? He brought in the one decorated with pink daisies, the one I must have left on the draining board. Marcus didn't drink the coffee, how could he? But he did say, I've come to rescue you. And how do you propose to do that? I said. Another slow grin. That's what I should have done, he said, propose. My turn to smile. So that's why you've put in an appearance, is it? To rectify your mistake? If I hadn't been anticipating a much envisaged kiss, I would have heard the back door creak open. When I focused again, unkissed, Marcus had vanished. How long was it before I heard the sounds? Gurgles, groans, gasps, coming from the kitchen. Slumped between the table and the fridge was the beached wail of Bob. Not the Bob who had left pale and very hearty for the golf club this morning, but the Bob who now has a long, serrated knife planted in his stomach. The police sergeant is badgering me for times. When? Before or after? How long? I can't help him. I see terror claws up my throat. For one thing is certain. The last embodied person to touch that knife was me. Phantoms don't have fingerprints to leave.
Not for the ocean-going opera house, nor the harbour bridge, historic grey, strutting out from boyhood dreams. Nowadays, it's younger voices raised. And have they done their homework? Who's playing when? Yes, we'll be there. And then, which film to see? On Tuesday, did you say? Coming home. Not for the sweetnesses of Darling Street, flat white or cappuccino, cosied next to sun-drenched walls where conversations measure out the morning, but for the Sydney Morning Herald, where Peter Roebuck knocks the poms at cricket, and for every cousin of the eucalypt which claims the back streets of Balmain. Yet the Jumbo's flight past deafens us at Leichhardt Hall, obliterates the dust of our arrival, lifts the sense of going home. Yes, and those mosquitoes who deliver just the same. Thank you.
Many of the neighbours are lovely, but they have to be in the know as well as very near to the know. And it's just a description of the river's course, really. In the know, she dribbles off from the old Knight's Head, tickling the narrow Packhorse Bridge, then riddles on neath Lady Booth, with Kinder striding up above. Meanders racing with the valley trains, past darkened bridges and Edale's old path, collecting debris for her trip, coursing by Whitemore stitch and Jagger's clough. On flowing days, with wind in favour, the idle ducks will surf along, eyeing along the way designer nesting plots, smooth bathing stones, and twig piles decked by squeaky coops. She slips by the Cheshire Cheese, the flower-tended gardens, joining the rocky beds of hope. Passing the caravans, the no rumbles the residents, nattering as they sip their wine, competing for the neatest lawn, whispering like wasps about this, then that, shielding their privacy behind closed doors. And so to Bruff one day, she gushes by the watermill, a much admired but rusty spot, sending out messages to Bradwell Brook. Then loses her mane of strength and flair. She pours into the Derwents' massive bowl.
The armourers struck sparks on Irongate and Naismithgate. Near the town's heart of blood and bone, the butchering shambles. Water proved a prized resource, as Spa Lane, Holywell, and Dalesford Street proclaimed. And prayers of gratitude rose heavenwards from Church Lane and St Mary's Gate. The town still tugged its forelock, naming streets for Devonshire, Rutland, Cavendish, but found space off-centre for radicals like Cromwell, Darwin, Cobden, Gladstone. Industry drew sweat and toil for Markham, Stevenson, on Foundry Street and Bobbin Mill Lane, while blood and tears flowed at Alma, Inkerman, and the town remembered. More fighting in other lands and roads for Redvers Buller, Baden Powell, Spine Cop at football ground. But an eerie silence for slaughter on the Somme, Ypres, Dardanelles. Too many lost, too much to remember. You will seek in vain for signs of Dunkirk, Arnhem, or El Alamein in our town's thoroughfares. Easier for estates to sing of lakes and hills, dead poets and golf courses.
Right, straight back to where we were. Holly Down Under. Oh, to be in Sydney, now it's Christmas there. No rain or sleet or winter fog, not freezing anywhere. I wish I was in Sydney on its midsummer day, for there and then my Christmas would be just 4 days away. It's great to be in Sydney, spend Christmas by the sea, picnic in Centennial Park, no need to watch TV. But then, I'd miss those special films, the chance that it might snow, and who would bring my presents there? Stop, hold it, wait a mo. I've had a second thought on this and decided not to go.
My friends call me Ray. My best friend is called Beaky, and frankly, if Beaky were a picnic, he wouldn't have the right number of sandwiches. Some of you might remember me from last year, but the thing you need to know about me is that I've been in an accident. It was actually a very bad accident. In fact, a pallet of pineapples fell on my head, and I remained in a coma for a very long time. I did recover, thanks to medical attention. Even a doctor that might be in this room might have helped. But I was back to full health apart from one thing, and that is that I still experience Thursday every week before Wednesday. Now, I was hoping that this gift of experiencing Thursday before Wednesday might make me a fortune or fame. And this is the story of what happened next. I'd never been a gambling man, but it was a chance remark by my old friend Beaky that got me thinking. Do you want a flutter on the Grand National, he said. He thrust a newspaper in front of me with a list of runners. In the end, I chose Black Rum because I thought it might have fast genes. As it happens, it didn't. It fell at Beecher's Brook and had to be shot. But it did get me thinking about betting on horses. The Grand National was on a Saturday, so that was really good. But if racing had been on a Wednesday, that would be an entirely different kettle of fish. Beaky, do they do horse racing on a Wednesday? Yes, Ray, of course they do. There's racing on somewhere every day. Campton Park, Cheltenham, Doncaster, that sort of thing. Why? Oh, nothing, I said. I just wondered. The next day I looked carefully at the sports pages. Not just the football and rugby results like normal, but the racing section. Sure enough, every day I looked, there was racing on some place. On Thursday I looked, and there were results from Chesterfield on Wednesday. I can still remember Fat Chance, which had won the 3:30 at 33-1. I worked out with some difficulty that if I put £100 on this horse, I'd now be a cool £3,300 better off. I couldn't wait until the next Thursday. I was outside the paper shop waiting for it to open at 6 o'clock in the morning. That Mr. Singh must work long hours, because I've seen him in there at 10 o'clock at night as well. I'd want a pint of milk as well as the newspaper to cover my tracks. I was quite crafty really. I said to Mr. Singh, oh, I might as well have a paper while I'm here for the milk. I hoped he wouldn't notice me shaking as I grabbed the change and legged it out of the shop, as though I was late for work. For some reason I hid the newspaper under my coat and brandished the milk in front of me so that any onlookers would have no doubt about my real mission. Racing at Redcar was featured in the list of runners and riders that the racing correspondent predicted the favourite Joker's Hand would walk in. Although it was broad daylight, I drew my curtains before switching the telly on. The commentator took us through the runners and riders and their form. He knew not only the names of the horses, but their mums and dads as well. He thought that Joker's Hand, the 2-1 favourite, was bound to win, as he was in the form of his life. Then they were off, in a tangled blaze of colour and movement, with just 5 furlongs to go. I say just, but I hadn't got a faintest how many a furlong was. The commentator was firing the names of the horses out at the rhythm of a gallop. There was scant mention of Going Places, who was clearly playing a crafty game, letting the favourites make the running. Round the final bend, Going Places made its move, ready to take them all on the outside. The jockey crouched forward intently, bringing down his whip with a vicious crack. He was leaving it late though. Joker's Hand was still leading by what the commentator described as 4 lengths. Lengths of what, I'm running? It required a photograph at the end, and after what seemed like an age, they announced that Going Places at 12-1 had won by a nose from Joker's Hand. I was at the head of the queue as the podgy manager opened up Jake's Sporting Chance on the High Street the next day, which was, of course, you're still with me, a Wednesday. I filled my betting slip in and handed over my stake with as much nonchalance as I could muster. "You taking the Michael?" Fat Jake said. "That nag's got no chance." But he took my money and gave me a receipt before I could change my mind. I calculated that my winnings would be in excess of £4,000. And of course, once I got this system refined, I could do it every week. Fat Jake was at the counter in Sporting Chance counting a large pile of dirty notes when I went in on a Friday. He'd have to give it all to me when he saw my ticket. I shoved it under the grill. "Going places, 1 o'clock, red car, 12 to 1, I said triumphantly. He looked at me over his half-moon glasses. "I told you that one was fit for glue, didn't I?" "Did better than expected, though." "But it won," I said, "by a nose. I saw it. You can't cheat me." He pointed to the screen with a grubby fingernail and scrolled down the results. Results, 1 o'clock, red car. First, Joker's hand, 2 to 1. Then he stabbed at the bottom of the screen. "Look here, going places, disqualified." "But it won. I saw it on the telly." "Sorry, pal, it might have won, but it didn't win. Steward's inquiry, excessive use of the whip, it was disqualified." So, my friends, I'm looking to you for the sympathy this evening, because you will understand that I'm the only one in this room that's going absolutely nowhere.